Cheers, y'all. Hope you are enjoying your stimulating beverages. I am enjoying mine. Now, I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube about what would be the best psychedelic for someone who has no prior experience. Pot not included. I personally think pot has psychedelic effects, or it can anyways. I think that also typically mostly just applies to people who've done a lot of psychedelics. Because for people who've done a lot of psychedelics, you know what I'm talking about. It can be psychedelic. And it also has that same effect of being like affected by your state subjectively. So, in my mind, it is a psychedelic, but I'm not including it because it's still, very far from what you typically experience with a psychedelic. Now, I think that, like I saw, for example, Psych Substance Adam's video on what you should do if you haven't had any experience with psychedelic, and I believe he did say 2CB, which, yes, 2CB is a good place to start. But, 2CB can also get pretty intense visual-wise. If you're not used to visuals, you want something that is visual, but that isn't overwhelmingly so. And so I think that there are ameliorations, there are improvements that can be made to that advice. And that's what I aim to do with this video. Because I've done them all. I've done all the weird research chemicals, I've done all the drugs. I can tell you what you should do. And 2CB, yes, if you're doing it in a dosage that is maybe 15 or 17 milligrams, not 20, 25 milligrams. That might be too much for someone who's not used to the effects of a psychedelic. So I aim to give you advice that's a little bit different. Pardonnez-moi. I think, honestly, the best ones are, depending on what you want to try. If you want to try something like acid, I would say your best bet is, without a doubt in my mind, ALLAD, also known as Alad or Aladdin. It is a research chemical. It is legal in many countries. I don't know about all of them, but it is legal in my country. I used to be able to buy it from a lab. They don't carry it anymore, which is really unfortunate because I love this stuff. I call it acid light because it is very, very much like LSD, but it is not that 12-hour ride. You have to sign up for it 12 hours at least, and that is too much for a lot of people. The reason acid is too much for a lot of people, even experienced psychonauts, is because of that lengthy duration. Because there's no getting off that ride unless you are taking a handful of benzos to stop it, which if you do have to do that, it's unfortunate. I very rarely had to do that, and when I did, it felt like a defeat. So, yeah, people have bad times on LSD because they fight that roller coaster when they're, 3-4 hours in, and they're starting to experience the peak. And then it's just downhill from there. So with the ALLAD, it's 8 hours total. So, and the visuals are also really cool, I find. I find they're about, on par with LSD. But you don't get that weird, soupy brain feeling that LSD gives you. But you very much feel like you're in that same realm. It's just, less intense. I think just as visual. I remember once I did a hit of 1P LSD and ALLAD, and I was looking at the sky when I was peaking because I was on a bike ride, and it looked like Persian carpets just all across the sky. It was so cool, so cool. And I could tell the AL-LAD visuals were predominant over the 1P LSD visuals. But yeah, anyways, it's a really great drug. I wish I could still get it because I would do it since I'm taking a break from LSD. As you know, I've already got a little bit of HPPD, and I don't want to, fry my brain even more. But yeah, like I think it's a very good one to start with if you're interested in the more stimulating psychedelics. Like for me, I work better with the stimulating psychedelics because of my train of thought. It's, quite fast, and tryptamines tend to slow your brain down a bit because, they're very slow-moving visual-wise in terms of the trip. Yeah, so like I find with tryptamines a lot of the times, I have to take like a benzo like a while before just to slow my thoughts down, and that's like one of the only ways I can kind of enjoy it, because then I'm working at speed with the tryptamine. I don't advise people to do this if they don't have to, because you may even like detract from the intensity of the trip. You may not get the full experience. That's why I do it like hours before I take it. But yeah, for tryptamines, the best, without a doubt, that you could do is 4-HOMET. It's also a research chemical. It's also legal in most places, and it's also called 4-HOMET. And it's a very, very cool substance. And let me tell you how manageable this is. Like, I did a fair bit just a couple days ago, and then I was going way out to another municipality to party, and my Uber driver dropped me off in the wrong area. So I was lost, and I didn't know this area. So way, way, way from where I lived, like several municipalities, and I was still tripping pretty hard. And the visuals are very interesting on 4-HOMET. Like, they're very cartoonish, and they can be pretty strong, but like they have this feel of being more like a cartoon than like some spirits coming through the veil and piercing the fold and like looking in at you or whatever. Like I remember one to the high dose of 4-HOMET, I closed my eyes, and I could see these, like, they looked like coconuts, but like with jack-o'-lantern sort of smiles and eyes, and the holes are like all electric and like just kind of sparking, sorry. And they're just kind of I was like, damn, this is cool. This was back when I started doing psychedelics again. This is one of my first psychedelic trips and my second psychedelic chapter. I even had accidentally broken through on 4-HOMET once, and I experienced like a very DMT-like breakthrough for about an hour, and then was seeing what looked like entities for like 6 hours. Like, I remember seeing like the brain surgeon archetype, and he was like drilling like what looked like into my head, but I didn't feel it. So that's the thing. 4-HOMET is not very intrusive, and my stories are only of high dose experiences. Yeah, and I mean, anyway, I digress. So I was lost in this municipality, and I managed to figure out how to get to my friend's house, and I also was kind of blindsided by the fact that there's a bunch of drunk people showing up. The last people you want to be around on psychedelics are people who are drunk and doing cocaine. But I ended up having a blast with these guys. So it is a very adaptable psychedelic. Now, last I'll get into, because, like, yeah, those are, like, really all you need. ALLID, if you want something fast, you want something acidy, you want that lysergamide kind of feel. 4-HOMET, 4-HOMET, if you want that tryptamine shroom-like sort of feel. And the thing is, 4-HOMET can also kind of be like acid, I find. Like it's interesting. It kind of it sort of breaches this divide between the two. But it still has those slow-moving visuals, those slow-moving thought patterns that stuff like shrooms induces. But yeah, so 2CB, I think, is like 2CB is one of my favorite drugs. I love 2CB. It's very expensive, so I don't do it very often. And if I do it, I do like an insane amount of it. I want to have an intense experience. It's good because, like those other two drugs, like your headspace is completely unburdened. It's almost like you're sober in how you're thinking. And you get this MDMA-like body high that feels amazing. And the visuals can be very interesting, but non-intrusive. And what I mean by that is, like, you can look around and you can see kind of the etchings of the visuals and everything, but they don't get, like, very intense unless you, like, look at one place for a while. And, like, keep in mind, I only do, like, high doses of 2CB. And, like, even then, like, it's pretty functional. But I also think 2CB is like the Rolls Royce of psychedelics if you do the pure 2CB. But if you're starting, I would definitely say try 15 to 17 milligrams, or 15, maybe even 18 milligrams if you want something more visual. It's because it's not going to force you into introspection. Like, I've had very high doses of 2CB and still been able to be, like, relatively functional. And the thing is, it's a great aphrodisiac. You get very horny on 2CB. Like, LSD is a weird drug when it comes to sex. I mean, like, I've had sort of quote unquote sex with like, these, like, beautiful women when I close my eyes and get lost in the lysergamide world. Like, it's kind of like the female part of my psyche is coming out, and also my sexuality is coming out and meaning. I have similar experiences on DMT, but yeah, those are, like, very high dose experiences too. But as far as, like, sex with other people goes, it's weird. It can get, like, kind of awkward because you get very like micro expressions become like macro expressions. You hone in on them. So, and in sex, there's a lot going on. So, if you're stuck on one little micro expression, it makes the whole process pretty hard. Whereas 2CB, it's like, whoa, let's go. I am fucking so horny, because it's like MDMA in terms of the euphoria. And I would argue in higher doses, and I've done ridiculously high doses of MDMA to the point of hallucinating, even more euphoric. But again, I would say ALLID, 4-HOMET are the best when it comes to beginner drugs. They will give you an idea of what to expect, and if you don't like the experience, then you're probably not going to like the slightly more intense and introspective experiences. If you do want an introspective experience, you can get them with all three of these compounds. Like 2CB was used initially in therapy, and I can see why. Because if you really focus on those aspects of, the introspective capacity that these compounds have, then you can really get into it. I mean, I've done it, I've gotten into it, but you're not forced to. So I would say, yeah, those are three examples, and I think they are much better starting drugs than, like, a low dose of LSD or a low dose of mushrooms. They will give you a better idea of what to expect. Also, MDA is another one, but it is also very different too. Like, it's similar to 2CB in the fact that it's a phenethylamine, but like for me, my first trip was MDA, and I found it didn't really prep me for what I was about to experience when I did acid as my first hallucinogen, because it's very different in terms of the hallucinations. And also sometimes you don't hallucinate at all, depending on like what type of MDA you do, because there's a euphoric type, there's a trippy type. It's kind of like with the R-ketamine, S-ketamine sort of thing. Yeah, anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there because all the videos I've seen talking about what your first psychedelic should be, I think get it seriously wrong by not including the two. I mean, and they usually include 2CB, but they don't really talk about like what dose you should take. And also, some people are very sensitive to psychedelics, so you don't know like how sensitive you are. Like if you've done MDMA, say like at 100 milligrams, and you've had a beyond intense experience, maybe start with a lower dose on 2CB and work your way up. Because I know people who have done like 10 milligrams of 2CB and like had this like full-on breakthrough, I'm one with everything, like I'm experiencing God sort of experience. But anyways, that's it. I wanted to throw that out there because I just see this being a substantial error in these videos not to include these compounds. Now, where do you get these compounds? I'm not going to source, but research chemical websites, because they're legal in most places. So, with that being said, have fun. Tripping is a great thing, and it will sometimes show you things you don't wish to encounter, but you need to encounter regardless. So yeah, I would say those are probably the three best that you can do. There could be other weird research chemicals I haven't done, but I don't think so because I've done quite a few of them, and these are without a doubt the best. Also, some advice for those who are willing to take the ride: do not abuse psychedelics, and what I mean by that is do not treat them like another drug to have fun and escape reality from, because that is the wrong approach, and that is why they continue to be illegal, because people are taking them in an abusive way. And my motto, one of them, when it comes to tripping, is do not abuse psychedelics or they will abuse you. These are profound substances that have the capability of giving you great meaning and helping you towards self-betterment. That being said, I am the synthetic, not so spiritual shaman. Synthetic because I like synthetic drugs like ALLAD and for HOMET. I wish I could get me some ALLAD, but as I said, the place I go to, or order from anyways, they've been tapped for some time. And it's a real shame because, as I said, I'm not doing acid for a little while anyways. Yeah. I hope you all have a smooth sailing day. And I hope you can like, subscribe, and even more importantly, try to generate a discussion with me, because I want to hear your thoughts and contribute to a conversation on here. Bye-bye.